All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Or should I say good evening? I always get that mixed up for whatever different reason it is. I have no idea. But welcome to the show. I'm your host, Daniel Cody, and giving you commentary and reviews on all things wrestling. Before I get started with today's video, two very important things. First, I want to send a special shout out to Maba Mishima. I hope I said that properly. Okay, let me see. Maba Mishima. Thank you so much for your subscription to the channel. It means a lot. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you're entertained by the show. Thanks for joining. And also, in a little bit of serious, it's a little sad, but in seriousness, I want to send my thoughts. I want to send my thoughts and my prayers to the family and friends of late wrestler Daphne. Most of you know her from WCW and TNA. I know her mostly from watching TNA from 07, 08, 9, and 10 during the days where AJ Styles and Samoa Joe were on TNA at the time, along with Sting, Booker T, Angle, and Kevin Nash. I think that's some of the, and Scott Steiner. So, thoughts and prayers to her, great veteran in female wrestling. Never came to WWE, but she was well known in other organizations. So the sad part about it is, ironically, I did a video about SummerSlam 2004. And before I acknowledged the main event, I talked about the importance of mental health and why mental health is so important. So I want to say as an encouragement to anyone, if you are struggling, get help. If you are feeling depressed or anything like that, get help. Everything matters. It doesn't matter how much you may think your feelings are matter less or things like that. Everything matters. If you're lonely, that matters. If you're depressed, that matters. So seek help and let's better ourselves in times like this, because these are very serious times, and a lot of people are going through it. Both rich, poor, doesn't matter. Just remember, your feelings matter. But with that being said, God rest the soul of Daphne. Sad the way she went out. Thoughts and prayers to the family and friends. But now with that being said, let's get into today's review of Friday Night Smackdown. For whatever reason, WWE did not put a post up saying in memory of Daphne, but maybe they will later. I don't know. Moving on, let's get started with the opening of the show, in which the Usos took on the Street Profits, and the Usos took control for a little bit and things of that nature. And so then the Street Profits kind of made their own comeback and went for, and Montez Ford, as I've said before, does the most amazing frog splashes ever, even better than Rob Van Dam. But regardless, the match didn't end because Jimmy Uso came and broke it up and got everyone disqualified, and the match would end with Montez Ford and the Street Profits standing tall, miraculously, considering the fact that Montez Ford, as athletic as he is, went for an over-the-top rope dive and had a pretty nasty landing. So by the grace of whoever we believe in, he was okay and he didn't break his neck. Thank goodness he did not break his neck. So, moving forward, one of the funniest things happened, besides the fact that anyone else finds it weird that Paul Heyman stares at Roman just weirdly. He didn't stare at Brock Lesnar. I don't think Brock Lesnar is going to want Paul Heyman back in his corner, because if Brock Lesnar has to be thinking, if he's going to stare at me like that, I'd rather just be a loner. All that. The way he just stares at Roman all day, though, it's like, I got to get a pose because trying to do it makes me laugh. I'm breaking character. My tribal chief. I can't do it with a straight face. I am so sorry. I just can't. But anybody else think that's weird? Because I do. Anyway, moving on. Roman, after watching his cousins get disqualified, demands Paul Heyman to summon his brothers, only to be startled by the lovely mistress of obvious, as Paul Heyman called her. He didn't call her lovely though, because Paul is kind of mean. But to be startled by the mistress of obvious, Kayla Braxton, looking great tonight, came in and interviewed Paul in one of the funniest segments ever, where I did not know Paul Heyman had Brock Lesnar's ringtone as a ringer when Brock Lesnar calls. But apparently Brock Lesnar called Paul Heyman over the phone and told him that he is going to be in Madison Square Garden next Friday night. Gosh, I can't wait for next week. But to make matters even more funnier, Paul Heyman bumps into a janitor and says, "If you're gonna take out the trash, start with her." First of all, Kayla is not trash. She's anything but. Second of all, it wasn't a regular janitor. It was Big E Langston with his funny laugh, which symbolizes that at any time he can cash in. So Roman has to watch his back. Moving on, after a very funny segment, we go on to Becky Lynch. Now, a lot of people were wondering. For a second, I thought to myself Becky Lynch was just a tweener. And for those of you who don't know what that means, I learned it from a lot of YouTube comments. What this means is Becky Lynch is a bit in between face and heel. And that's what I thought she was, because we all know about what I like to call the squash of the century. And then Becky Lynch walking away from Bianca's challenge last week, much to the disappointment of the crowd who booed at that time. But as she came out, she was greeted to a standing ovation, much like last week. She indirectly demanded a "you deserve it" chance, but saying that she should have been in Jacksonville last week. But then she went on to cut an interesting promo. Bianca comes out and responds. There was a bit of a blooper when Bianca said, "I am coming to win back the championship." No, she said, "What I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and I'm going to once again become the SmackDown Women's Championship." She said championship. You're not supposed to say champ. You're not supposed to call yourself championship. You're supposed to call yourself champion. But that was an honest blooper right there. It was hilarious though. But it was a great promo. However, after being challenged again, Becky declined. Fans booed. A couple of fans booed. And in my book, and in a couple of people's book, Becky Lynch might just be a heel. But a lot of fans who have worshipped Becky and loved Becky for such a long time, I don't think a lot of people want to accept her as a heel. So they just cheer her regardless. I don't think anyone wants to accept Becky as a heel. But she's a heel. And Bianca is getting much more popularity, if not just as much popularity as Becky Lynch. But even though she declined for tonight, we will be seeing her at Extreme Rules. Those two ladies fight for the championship, and the contract signing will happen next week in Madison Square Garden. A couple of small pointers here. Dolph Ziggler versus Rick Boogs. The Boogs cruise did not last long, and for some reason, Dolph Ziggler is getting buried. And speaking of burials, besides Dominic getting buried by Sami Zayn later on that night, and I hope this doesn't script them to turn father against son. I really hope they don't go that way. Please, I hope they don't. But either way, besides those two burials, I really hated the one with Dominic. But besides the quick match with Boogs and Dolph Ziggler, there was another thing I noticed is that in the back, Dolph Ziggler was trying to ask out Tony Storm, but Tony was rooting for Rick Boogs. But I have a question. Why isn't Tony Storm getting TV time? And she is not the only woman that I am questioning why is she not getting TV time, as Naomi was drafted to SmackDown last week, and this week she was told she was going to be active, but she hasn't been given any activity lately. So there's a lot. I know we only have a 2-hour show, but I still wonder, why isn't Tony Storm being used and why isn't Naomi being used? I mean, Carmella gets to take up TV time proving how pretty she is. The only person that cares about that is Corey. This is not a beauty contest, people. This is the WWE. We came to watch people fight, for God's sakes. But either way, moving on from the two short burials, things got really interesting tonight with Seth Rollins versus Cesaro, of rivalry being renewed, as Cesaro for a second was able to one-up Seth in the early parts of the match, filling out process as commentators would used to call it. However, Seth Rollins took control by mocking Edge with the Edgecution and later using the Edge-O-Matic. But after 17 laps of the Cesaro swing and the sharpshooter, which I'm surprised Seth is not having a full-on headache, Seth Rollins gets himself disqualified, which I would understood if he had a headache. But he got himself disqualified and he broke the bars of the steel chair and used it to put on his version of the crippler crossface, which mocks Edge. Now, I will give Seth credit on one thing. Roman Reigns is the longest reigning champion ever. He beat JBL's record on SmackDown, longest reigning championship reign. But Roman will never own the credit that Seth Rollins did. It's because Seth Rollins, besides Edge, is the only one to break the chair bar correctly. He is the only one to do that. When Roman tried to break it at Money in the Bank, the bar bended in half. When Seth did it, it didn't bend. Just like Edge. And yes, apparently Edge and Seth are just alike, obviously. And so he did his crossface, and of course he did the wide eyes again. But he has nothing on Edge and his psychotic eyes. However, just when we thought we were going to see a concerto, which is another way of mocking Edge, Edge comes out and saves Cesaro. I didn't even know Edge was here, but he was there tonight and saved Cesaro from a concerto from Seth. Thank goodness. Also, Edge makes the challenge. We're going to see Edge versus Seth Rollins next week in Madison Square Garden, New York City on Friday Night SmackDown. Also, in short news, is it Logan Paul or Jake Paul? Let me see. Logan or Jake? Logan, Jake. It's Logan. It's Logan because they both look alike. Let's just get that straight. They both look alike. Logan, Jake, they all look... I think they twins. But either way, Logan comes out as a special guest for the Kevin Owens show. No, actually, Baron Corbin came out first. Rich Happy Corbin came out first. And then Logan came out with Corbin, and an ambush was sensed, and Kevin tried to defend it, but 2 against 1, not good odds. Now let's get to some real business at hand. The main event, long overdue, Finn Balor versus Roman Reigns. And we all knew Roman was behind, and this is script talking. I know it's just entertainment, but don't you dare use the F word to me. If you've learned anything from Young Rock, or you've been a wrestling fan since childhood like I have, you know you don't ever say the F word, so don't you dare use that word. I know it's entertainment, but from a scripted standpoint, we all know Roman was behind the Usos attacking Finn Balor, crushing his ribs with the steel stairs. But Finn Balor, in his toughness, was able to continue. But of course, as mentioned by the commentators, Roman, as usual, takes control of the match. But Finn Balor puts on a great effort and gives us a great match for the Universal Championship. In fact, there was a particular moment where he went for his finisher, the coup de grace, and it was a 2 count because Roman Reigns intentionally delivered the low blow as he raised his shoulder up. And yes, it was intentional. Come on, Michael. Come on, Corey. That thing was intentional, and you know it. He started doing that last year when he did it to his cousin before he broke him and made him main event Jay, or the right hand man. So of course that's unintentional. It was intentional. So with that, we also saw what I like to call the punch of Thanos. I don't call it the Superman punch anymore because he's a heel and he's wearing a Thanos glove. So I call it the punch of Thanos. And then he goes for the guillotine lock, which puts him unconscious. Roman wins, and a heartbeat and a red light comes on, which Michael Cole mistakenly said was a symbol of Brock Lesnar. It is not. It is a symbol of the alter ego Finn Balor coming back. That is exciting. And next week is going to be so awesome in Madison Square Garden. Brock Lesnar's coming back. John Cena said on SBNation.com, by the way, that he acknowledged Brock Lesnar as one of the greatest right now. He didn't say he's on his top 10 or his top 50. But as far as Cena is concerned, Brock is one of the greatest of all time right now. And Brock Lesnar, when we see him next week, he's going to look like 2 bodies, as John Cena said on SB Nation. So I can't wait to see what happens. Next week is going to be so exciting. And if tonight is a tease, I can't wait to see the Demon come back. The only thing I wish is that Bray Wyatt had not been released, because we could have seen a dream match between the Demon and the Fiend. Darn it. But that's all the time I have for you today, guys. I'll be back with another review on all things wrestling. Have a great weekend. Peace out.